It was a typical Tuesday when I started to notice subtle changes in my sister's routine while she cared for my paralyzed husband, Leo. It started small and barely noticeable, but something that big couldn't be hidden away forever. The day I found a note under the couch, I never saw my sister the same again. I couldn't believe what my sister had been hiding, and it changed everything. After my husband got in a car crash a few years ago that left him paralyzed from the waist down, my life turned upside down. I was a receptionist at a bank and had no clue how to take care of my husband's special needs. But like a miracle, my sister jumped in to help as she had just gotten her degree as a live-in nurse. At that time, it felt like the perfect solution. I got to live with my sister and my husband, getting the best of both worlds. I loved my sister, and we had a great bond, so I never second-guessed the decision to let her care for my husband, no matter how intimate it would get. She showed me how to bathe him so that I could feel of some use too, while she did the rest. In the first few weeks, I often checked up on both my husband and my sister, asking them if they felt comfortable with how things were going, but they both told me not to worry. I knew they had always had a great bond, so hearing they were both comfortable with how things were going and their bond was still strong felt amazing. Sadly, now that I know what my sister was hiding, I can't seem to think of that time without picking apart every detail. Why was my sister too eager to help me and my husband out? Was it really only because of our sisterly bond, or had she an ulterior motive? I know better now, but back then, I never would have guessed the person my sister actually was. I first noticed something was different on a typical Tuesday morning, while my sister was making coffee for my husband and I. The coffee she gave me tasted a bit strange, and as soon as she saw my confused face, she quickly switched our mugs while laughing sheepishly. I tried a new coffee taste for Leo. "What do you think?" she asked. Leo tasted the coffee I just had, and his face looked just as confused as mine. I couldn't remember even buying new coffee, so this was all just very strange. "What flavor is this?" I asked her, but she said she couldn't remember, and quickly changed the subject. From that day on, I began to notice more and more things. "Amanda snooped through our study yesterday," I told my husband one night while we lay in bed. He seemed surprised, but not too worried. "Maybe she was just looking for a picture of you guys or something. Do you want me to ask her about it?" he answered, but I told him not to. She was my sister, and I needed to do this on my own. It felt horrible to suspect my sister was up to something. I used to trust her with all my heart, but now I didn't even feel comfortable leaving her alone with my husband. Sure, I trusted him, but he was still a man, and she was a young, beautiful woman. I've seen the movies and read enough stories to know cheating could happen to the best of us. But when I asked my husband about it one day, he assured me she had never even made the slightest move on him. He seemed honest and truthful, so hearing that from him made me feel a bit better. At the same time, though, it made me confused about why she was acting so suspicious if she wasn't after my husband. The next morning, I woke up early to water my plants before going to work. As I walked past my sister's room, I heard her softly talking to someone on the phone. I couldn't understand what they were saying as it was too hushed, but it was definitely about something secret, because as soon as one of the floorboards creaked underneath my feet, it got quiet. While watering my plants, I heard a loud thud from our room. Rushing in, I found Leo groaning in pain, looking paler than usual. My sister dashed in, her face etched with concern. "He's suddenly ill," she announced, checking his forehead. I felt a knot in my stomach. How could this happen so suddenly? Despite my worries, my sister insisted she'd handle everything. "Go to work, I've got this," she said, her voice firm. How could I leave, knowing Leo was in such a state? Yet, she pushed me out the door, assuring me she'd call if anything changed. The guilt gnawed at me as I drove away, images of Leo's pained face haunting me. I couldn't shake my concerns, so I hatched a plan. Before leaving for work, I turned on the computer, opened Skype, and called myself to keep an eye on our room. I needed to see what happened when I wasn't there. Adjusting the camera, I made sure the entire room was in view, hoping this would give me some answers. I minimized Skype, making sure it wouldn't catch my sister's eye, and left for work. The moment I got into my car, I cranked up my phone's volume, ready to listen in. As I drove, I was on edge, waiting for any sound, any clue of what was really happening at home. I needed to know Leo was okay. As I navigated the morning traffic, my sister's voice filled the car. "Rest up and eat your soup," she coaxed Leo, her tone gentle. It sounded so normal, just like any caring nurse speaking to her patient. The everyday nature of the conversation made me question my doubts. Was I wrong about her? Listening to their interaction, everything seemed so ordinary. I couldn't help but wonder if my suspicions were unwarranted. Was this all a product of my overactive imagination? The more I listened, the more I doubted my instincts. Perhaps I was just stressed and seeing shadows where there were none. At work, I kept my phone propped up, the sound off, glancing at Leo resting in our room. Everything was calm until my sister entered, sitting by Leo's side. She seemed to be doing nothing more than any caring sibling would, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her actions than met the eye. My sister's tender gestures towards Leo were interrupted as she whispered something in his ear. Then she turned her gaze directly towards the camera, her expression changing as she reached out and turned off the computer with a grim smile. That smile sent chills down my spine. What had she discovered? My heart pounded as I watched her actions, every instinct screaming to rush home. Yet, my career was at a pivotal moment with the meeting about my promotion starting. I felt torn, trapped between my professional responsibilities and the urgent need to confront the unsettling scene unfolding at home. Right after the meeting, I couldn't stay a minute longer. I scribbled a note for my manager, explaining I had a family emergency and had to leave immediately. My mind was racing with worry and suspicion as I rushed out of the office, desperate to get home and confront my sister about what I had seen. When I arrived home, my sister was lounging on the couch, watching TV as if it were just any other day. The normalcy of the scene made my heart race even faster. How could she be so calm and collected after what I had witnessed on the Skype call? It didn't add up, and my anxiety turned into anger. I couldn't hold back my anger any longer. "What did you whisper to Leo?" I demanded, my voice filled with fury. The casual facade she had been projecting shattered in an instant as she turned to face me, her expression one of shock and disbelief at my outburst. I needed answers, and I needed them now. My sister's response was to accuse me of overreacting. "I just told him to stay strong," she retorted, trying to make me feel like I was losing my grip on reality. But her words did little to quell the storm of emotions inside me. I wasn't imagining things. Something was off, and I could feel it in my bones. Her defense quickly turned aggressive. "You should trust me! You've changed!" she yelled, flipping the script and making me the villain in her narrative. It was gaslighting, plain and simple. She was trying to make me doubt my own perceptions and beliefs, but I couldn't let her words sway me. I knew what I had seen, and I couldn't just ignore it. She stormed out of the house, her words sharp like knives. "I need some air," she said, claiming she'd never do what I accused her of. The door slammed behind her, leaving me alone in the silence of the living room. Her absence did nothing to calm my racing heart or clear the fog of confusion and suspicion that hung over me. I sank into the couch, the weight of our argument pressing down on me. Alone, the frustration and fear morphed into sadness, and I cried, the tears streaming freely. It was a release, but it offered no answers, no relief from the gnawing suspicion that something was terribly wrong. As I lay there, drained from crying, I tucked my hands under the pillow, seeking comfort. My fingers brushed against a piece of paper hidden beneath. Surprised, I pulled it out, my tears momentarily forgotten. What was this paper doing here, and why was it hidden under our pillow? The paper was a prescription for medication I didn't recognize. My confusion grew as I stared at it, trying to make sense of its presence in our home, hidden in such a personal space. What was this medication, and why was it prescribed? My heart raced as I realized this might be the clue I needed to understand what was happening. With the prescription in hand, I hurried to our study, my mind racing with possibilities. I sat down in front of the computer, the piece of paper laying beside me. I typed the medication name into the search bar, my fingers trembling slightly. I was about to uncover the truth about the medication, but just as I pressed enter, the doorbell rang. Just as I was about to unveil the mystery of the medication, the doorbell echoed through the house, pulling me away from the screen. With a sigh, I stood up, curiosity still burning inside me. Who could it be at this hour, and what did they want? Opening the door, I found the doctor on our doorstep, his visit a reminder of Leo's worsening condition. He had come to check on Leo, his medical bag in hand, ready to assess and advise. His presence was both a relief and a harbinger of worry, the seriousness of the situation reflected in his somber expression. After examining Leo, the doctor's advice was straightforward but worrisome. "Keep a close eye on him," he said, puzzled by the sudden decline in Leo's health. "If he gets worse, hospitalization might be necessary." His words hung heavy in the air, leaving a trail of concern and uncertainty. What was causing Leo's condition to deteriorate so rapidly? With the doctor gone, I returned to Leo's side, laying next to him and holding him close. He was feverish, his body hot and sweaty, a testament to his struggle. Leo's weak moans were heartbreaking, yet his awareness of my presence offered a sliver of comfort amidst the fear and uncertainty enveloping us. My sister came back later, arms laden with groceries and a bottle of wine, proposing an old-fashioned girls' night as a peace offering. "Let's make dinner together and just relax," she suggested, trying to bridge the gap that had formed between us. Her attempt at normalcy felt out of place, but the gesture was there, an olive branch extended in the midst of our storm. Even though my heart wasn't in it, I agreed to the girls' night. Deep down, I missed how things used to be between us. The idea of recapturing even a fragment of our old sisterly bond was too tempting to resist, despite the swirling storm of doubts and fears that had taken residence in my mind. As we sat down to eat the lasagna she made, my favorite, and sipped on my preferred wine, something felt off. After just one glass, a wave of dizziness washed over me. It was unusual, unsettling. This wine had never affected me this way before, leaving me to wonder what was causing this unexpected reaction. The room seemed to spin, an unfamiliar sensation overwhelming me after such a small amount of wine. It didn't make sense. My tolerance had always been higher, and one glass had never left me feeling this way. The edges of my vision blurred as I tried to grasp onto the rapidly fading sense of normalcy. I stumbled to the couch, my limbs heavy and uncooperative, and succumbed to a sleep that felt more like a descent into darkness. When I woke up, the sunlight was already filtering through the curtains, leaving me disoriented and piecing together the fragments of the night before. It was as if the evening had been erased from my memory. My sister's laughter greeted my confusion. She teased about how we'd finished the entire bottle, and I'd passed out before we could even start our movie. According to her, I was just too drunk. But her words didn't match my recollection of the night. Something didn't add up, and her laughter only deepened the pit in my stomach. Suddenly, the note flashed in my mind. Pretending to be sick, I dashed to the study under the guise of running to the bathroom. My heart pounded with the urgency of finding the truth hidden in that prescription. My footsteps a quiet rush against the floor. Reaching the study, my heart sank. The note was gone, the computer off, as if erasing any trace of my late-night discovery. Panic knotted in my stomach. Who took it, and why? The room felt colder, the silence heavier, as if the very air was laced with secrets. I powered on the computer, desperation mounting. The Google tab with my search was gone, the name of the medication escaping me. My brain scrambled to grasp the fading letters, a futile attempt to recall what was once so clear. Time felt both frozen and slipping through my fingers. Then it hit me. The search history could lead me back to the information I desperately needed. I navigated through the digital breadcrumbs with shaky hands, each click echoing my racing heart. This was it, my chance to uncover what was hidden, to understand the mystery that consumed my home. As the search history loaded, my sister's voice pierced the silence, her footsteps approaching. "Are you okay?" she called, her tone nearing the study. Panic surged. There was no escaping now, no time to hide. The truth was moments away, but so was she. I braced myself, the screen beginning to reveal the information just as she reached the bathroom door. The moment the bathroom door creaked open, I knew my absence was discovered. Simultaneously, the screen lit up with information about the medication, a damning revelation waiting to be uncovered. My heart skipped a beat as I realized my sister would soon know I wasn't where she thought I was. As the webpage loaded, the reality of what my sister had been doing hit me. The medication was for inducing symptoms that mimicked serious illness. My eyes widened in horror at the confirmation of my worst fears. She had been deliberately keeping my husband sick. The betrayal stung sharply, a wound deeper than any other. She burst into the study, desperation etched on her face. Realizing too late that I had uncovered her secret, her hands reached out, as if she could somehow erase what I had learned. But the truth was out, hanging between us like a thick fog, impossible to ignore. Tears blurred my vision as I looked at her, the sister I thought I knew. My hand trembled on my phone, the weight of the decision to report her to the authorities heavy in my palm. Betrayal and sorrow mingled in my gaze, the loss of trust profound and piercing. Her plea was frantic, a twisted confession of her intentions. "I didn't want to kill him, just needed him to need me," she sobbed, her logic twisted by her own delusions. It was a chilling insight into her mindset, revealing a depth of manipulation and deceit I never imagined possible. After discovering the truth, I had no choice but to report her to the police. They arrived at our house, and my sister was arrested amidst a turmoil of emotions. The sight of her being led away in handcuffs was surreal, a scene I never imagined would be part of my life. It was a decisive moment, sealing her fate and marking the start of a long, challenging journey ahead. Leo was immediately taken to the hospital once the truth was uncovered. The doctors worked diligently to treat the effects of the poisoning, and, miraculously, he made a full recovery. Watching him regain his strength and health was a profound relief, a beacon of hope in the aftermath of such a dark ordeal. It was a testament to his resilience and the beginning of our path to healing. My sister's actions led to her being placed in a mental institution initially, where she received treatment for her disturbed state of mind. However, it was only a matter of time before she was transferred to a real prison to serve her sentence. The reality of her being behind bars was difficult to process, a stark reminder of how drastically our lives had changed. Despite everything, I couldn't sever the ties that bound us as siblings. Visiting her in prison was heart-wrenching, each encounter a mix of sorrow, regret, and the remnants of our once unbreakable bond. It was a struggle to reconcile the sister I knew with the person she had become, yet I found myself drawn to her, compelled by a sense of duty and lingering affection. Over time, Leo and I worked together to rebuild our lives. The process of making peace with the events that had transpired was slow and often painful, but necessary for our healing. While the image of my sister as I once knew her was irrevocably altered, we chose to release the bitterness and anger. Holding no grudges allowed us to move forward, cherishing the renewed appreciation for life and each other we had gained through this ordeal.